All right, StarCraft fans, ladies and gentlemen, we are here at the ace match of SK Telecom T1 versus Woongjin Stars. This is going to be Fantasy versus Zero. Zero versus Fantasy. We are going to have the Queen Zerg versus the Crowned Prince. That's right. This is actually the reason I did all the previous 4 games that were lackluster for the most part, I would say. I did it because I wanted to see this. I wanted to see Fantasy, who is a very, very talented and well-respected Terran player, go against Zero, the up-and-coming Zerg terror, who is just so smart, so quick on his feet. And we're going to see what happens here. This is going to be on Neo Moon Glaive, which is a map I've seen, you know, fairly recent games on. It's a really cool looking map. If you guys go onto Team Liquid and look up the map in their database there, it's pretty cool. The one thing that worries me, though, is this. There are downward ramps all over the place. Every single expansion has a downward ramp going into it, which is especially not good if you're playing against a Terran. And interestingly, so far, even though there's only been a few games, so you know, take this with a grain of salt, but so far Terran has been quite a bit favored against Zerg on this map. I think it's like almost 2-to-1 at this point. We're probably going to see a 12 hatch go down, I'm assuming, from Zero. But yeah, anyways, it's you know, Zero is going to be fighting an uphill battle, no pun intended, although that's literally what's going to be happening here. No cheese at the moment, everybody playing straight forward. Zero is scouting in the wrong direction. One of the other reasons that I was really excited about this match is the fact that Zero has only played Fantasy one other time, period. They've only played one other game. Fantasy lost. It was on Coliseum 2, and it was in like February. So I mean, almost a year ago, Zero and Fantasy played, and Zero actually came out on top. Now, interestingly enough, Fantasy is only 50% when it comes to Zerg versus, or playing against Zerg, but Zero is only slightly better. He's at like 54, 53%. So both of them are fairly even matched matches. Both players that I respect a great deal. And I just really kind of wanted to see what was going on here. Zero getting a good scout in there on the base. It's not going to last too long because Marine's about to pop right now. So just trying to get in. SEV saying no, get off my lawn. Much like Much says. One thing that always annoys me about these players' names is when they have names like really or anytime or much that are actual just like names of, you know, I don't know, adjectives and prepositions and crap that we would use anyways. Then you end up using their names in the game. And it's kind of annoying, like when you go to a movie and they say the title in the movie. Like, I hate that, you know, like, oh, you're in clear and present danger. You know, like, oh, great, fantastic. Like, I didn't need to, or I recently watched Lethal Weapon for the first time, and you know, what's his name? Not Morgan Freeman, the other old black actor guy. Gosh dang it, I can't remember his name. It's gonna come to me. It's gonna come to me. Anyway, Mel Gibson, he like says to Mel Gibson, like, oh, you're like a lethal weapon, aren't you? And then, you know, whatever, okay? You don't need to say the title of the movie in the movie. But I digress, you know. Anyways, third hatchery going up here. We are going to see some 2-base play, 3 hatchery play, but 2 bases here. So Zero is not going to try to get greedy and go for a third hatchery or a third mineral hatchery, that is. I'm assuming we're going to see some Mutalisk play. We're just going to go for the 3-hatch Mutalisks with 2 mining bases, which is definitely a very strong opening move against Terran. One thing that Fantasy is very good at, though, is being able to defend from said Mutalisk play. So I'm very curious if we are going to see that skill come into play in this game. Fantasy, of course, popular for the Fantasy build, the Vulture Harass into Valkyries. And Valkyries, you know, very, very powerful against Mutalisks, especially if you got 2 or 3 of them, which is usually what he goes for when he does go for that build. He is getting the Academy up, getting plenty of gas going, so he might be trying to get a quick tech up to that. But he certainly has plenty of time currently where we are in this game. Again, of course, this is the ace match, meaning that both teams are going to be tied at this moment. I mean, I would assume SK has won more games this season just because SK always wins more games, just because they have such strong players. But looking at the fact that some of the lead players haven't been playing as well, you know, I'm not sure. Again, I don't know that record. I don't have that on file. I wasn't able to find that out. So, so again, oh, Sunken Colony up there just in case. Actually, a smart move by Zero. The little medic marine, or the marine push is going to come as soon as the medics pop out. I'm assuming, as they normally do, to kind of test Zero's front door. Not a lot of action early on here. Both players are just kind of settling down. This is a 3-player map. Neo Moon Glaive. And, yep, there's the push with the medic. Although not quite pushing out yet. Might be waiting for another medic or two and before he tries to push out to put some pressure on Zero. Zero's pretty good. Zero, I don't see Zero lose very often in the early game. In fact, I'm trying to think right now back of the game where I've seen him. I mean, I've seen him lose a couple ZVZs that way, just because, I mean, that certainly tends to happen. But against Terran and Protoss, I rarely see Zero lose in the early game. He has very good early game micro, very good early game sense, as does Fantasy as well. Fantasy's got a pretty good game sense as well. Fantasy putting up a bunker. He's probably going to put up the bunker, get a couple Marines in there, and then move out. He is preparing with turrets here. Oh no, I'm sorry. He's gonna keep the Marines and medics in his base, so he's not gonna actually move out. Generally, when you're Terran, so this is interesting. This is the deviation I see in Fantasy here compared to a lot of other Terran players. A lot of Terran players would move out with their medic and Marine force, which would eventually get completely picked off by Mutalisks. So rather than do that, he is keeping the force in his base to try to defend off from the Mutalisk harass. And certainly, you know, a lot of players do this, but a lot of times there'll be a force out on the field, and then there'll be just a force, you know, back at the base that's kind of a little bit more minuscule. There's the second expansion going up, 4th hatchery for Zero, but not a bad idea. Playing very defensively with double bunkers down. Plenty of turrets, and again, that's what I mentioned before. You know, Fantasy doesn't play games when it comes to defending from Mutalisk harass. He knows it's going to come. He gets up what he needs, and I think that's smart. I think more Terran players should do that, and not just rely so much on medic Marines to defend from Mutalisk harass, especially when you're playing against a better player like Zero, who certainly has the skills to do damage. But Zero at this point has no place to go. He is trying to find a weak spot in the defenses, and he can't. It is Fantasy we're talking about here. He's got a very strong early game muted defense. We do see the starport going up. I have a feeling we're probably not going to see Valkyries in this game here, and again, no vulture harassment or anything like that early on. Oh, and the Mutalisks do find a way to get in, taking some hits, stopping production on the starport. Not a bad move by Zero. Zero found the weakness like a raptor in Jurassic Park, like a smart girl. He found a weakness in the fence, and now he's kind of getting owned, so he better run away. Lurkers are out. Probably going to use those to defend that base over on the left side just in case. That is a very, very good move. Going for that. In fact, I believe, yeah, he's going to go for that left full base there. So Zero will be in good shape if he can defend from this attack here and hold on to that left base there, the left main. That would be fantastic. Put him in a very good spot for later in the game here. Big attack going on. Just too much for Fantasy. Again, Fantasy doing too well with defense. You see that commonly used in these games where you'll see a big Zergling force go in with the Mutalisks to try to take out the Marine and Medic force there, Medic Marine, but not successful, unfortunately. Zero losing some Mutalisks and losing all those Zerglings, so definitely not what he wanted. Hive is going up already, though. Fast Hive to get that tech up and running. A lot of times what we'll see in the mid-game here is we'll see a tech switch from the Zerg player more to Lurkers, as we're kind of seeing right now. And then any remaining Mutalisks will be turned into Guardians with a greater Spire. We've seen that more and more lately. It's not something that maybe a year ago we used to see a whole lot. But, you know, and it's mainly just because Guardians don't tend to do that much. They don't do a whole lot of damage. They're generally not alive very long. So, especially with Science Vessels out on the field, about the time Science Vessels pop out is usually about the time you see Guardians popping up, if they are going to happen. And, of course, the Science Vessels can irradiate the Guardians and destroy them. Wow, losing 2 Lurkers there. That's too bad, Zero. Certainly, Zero's got his economy going, but right now, Fantasy is looking very, very strong. Fantasy's playing, literally at this point, has made absolutely no mistakes. I would say Zero's only mistake might have been that little rush with Lings and Mutas that kind of got completely demolished. Not a huge deal, but Science Vessels are already out. Both players have teched very, very quickly here, and